So I guess you gotta be happy that the Bruins are up 3-1.
No way, dude. You see what they do to the Leafs? I hate the Bruins.
Oh, so you're cheering against Jerome McGinley then?
Well, it's complicated.
Woo! Are you just gonna get hammered? Get me a toaster. Magic Angel Robot from Winnipeg!
What the hell are you talking about?
This team is ruining my life!
What's Steve wearing? A plain white t-shirt?
No, it's way cooler than that.
I'll explain later. We're talking Sharks, Kings, Avs, Wild, and we start with the Bruins and Red Wings. The Boston Bruins win 3-2 in overtime over the Detroit Red Wings, and they now have a 3-1 stranglehold in that series. Which, Leafs fans know from last year, the Bruins have been known to cough up. Just make sure that you know when you get to Game 7 that that's the same length as the rest of the games. Anyway, well, isn't this game full of surprises? Henrik Zetterberg is back! Jimmy Howard is not. Out with the flu, and a familiar face to me in these videos, Jonas Gustafsson starts in net. And naturally I go, wow, the Red Wings are screwed. So naturally they get a 2-0 lead. But Torrey Krug breaks the ice for the Bruins. I don't know how much longer that kid can fly under the radar. 2-1. And I say that because names like Tyler Johnson, Andre Palat, Nathan McKinnon, they dominate all the Calder talk, but Torrey Krug has been a very good rookie. Milan Lucic scores early in the third, and so much for that 2-0 lead. Has your team led by 2 or more goals at any point in these playoffs? That's a shame, because you probably lost. If you're the Penguins or Blue Jackets, you for sure lost. Jerome McGinley with the nice tip, bit of a fluky bounce, and the Boston Bruins win. And the win it for Iggy train picks up a little steam. Now some might look at that game, some might look at Jonas Gustafsson's performance and go, well, the Red Wings were there the whole time, it went to overtime, and the winner was a fluke. Brad Marchand alone had 2 gimmies. And I don't mean missed chances, I mean gimmies. Like if the Bruins lost that game, I don't think Marchand sleeps that night. They were gimmies to the point where if you told Marchand to miss on purpose, he might have scored by accident. And he did it twice. Because, at least it was my observation when he was a Leaf, Jonas Gustafsson, very athletic, sometimes a little too athletic. He'll have great form 5 feet wide of his own net. One last thing I noticed, 4 minor penalties in the first period, 3 in the second, none in the third. Look for that more and more as the playoffs go on, and personally I think that works in Boston's favor. Not calling the Bruins dirty or anything, just calling them the Bruins. Question of the game for this is a simple one. Can Detroit come back? Speaking of comeback, the Minnesota Wild win 2-1 over the Colorado Avalanche, and that series is now tied up 2 apiece. Oh, how pissed off are Avs fans. Now I'm gonna go back to being a Leaf fan again. Naturally, when you start losing, you immediately look at who is not in the lineup. And I think it's very easy and maybe partly justified to be like, look, Tyson Barrie is not in the lineup, and that is why we lost. Damn Matt Cook and his dirty Matt Cookiness. And hey, fair enough. But there have only been 4 games in this series, and the Minnesota Wild have outshot the Avalanche 4 times. 2 times considerably, including this one where the shots were 32 for the Wild, 12 for the Avalanche. And if you think that might be a bad thing, guess what? You're a fan of Corsi. Ha! Nerd! Just saying. I watched the Leafs when they were winning. I watched the Leafs when they were losing. This is kind of how the formula goes. Sometimes all your shots go in and the goalie makes every save, and you're pretty much guaranteed to win that game. Sometimes not every shot goes in, but your goalie makes a bunch of saves, or the other way around, and you might win that game. Sometimes you get neither, and then you'll miss the playoffs, which is why, generally speaking, you want to be the team that gets more shots. Captain Obvious to the rescue. But remember I talked about, maybe don't start Ilya Bryzgalov anymore. Darcy Kemper has allowed 1 goal on 48 shots in 2.5 games now. Not saying he's better than Semyon Varlamov, just saying that Varlamov needs some help. Last but not least, I'm so sorry, Shorks! It's my fault, hashtag Shorks. I talk about how you're this great team, and if you make it to the conference final, that means you don't even leave California until mid-May, so it could be your year. I'm sorry, it's my fault, just eat me, just eat my friggin' head! The LA Kings win 6-3 over the San Jose Sharks, and they live to fight another day. Still 3-1 for the Sharks, though. Raise your hand if you thought this would be a series between 2 offensive juggernauts. This series had chess match written all over it. Each of the 4 games in order, 9 goals, 9 goals, 7 goals, 9 goals. 7 goals was the off night. Between the Sharks and the Kings, 32 different players have at least 1 point in this series. 17 for the Sharks, 15 for the Kings. And last night the Kings were playing catch up. 12 different Kings with at least 1 point. 4 of them with 2. Jonathan Quick, by the way, not getting a single point because he's a bum apparently. And you know what? As an outsider looking in, I'm torn. As a hockey fan, I like to witness greatness, and I don't often get that here in Toronto, so I look elsewhere, and for example, a team like the Chicago Blackhawks, their greatness. They win the cup in 2010. The next year, even though the team was torn apart, they took the Canucks to Game 7 in the first round. The Canucks went on to the final, and then the Hawks, with their crazy streak at the beginning of last year, they win the Stanley Cup. Greatness. And what I talked about the last time I talked about the San Jose Sharks is the potential for greatness. Oh my goodness, they could dominate the Kings, and then they could go to the next round and dominate whoever they face, and then go to the conference final well rested, and who knows, this could be their year. But on the other hand, I don't want the series to end yet, so there's that. And I know a few people who write for the Kings blog, the Royal Half, and I don't want them to be sad. What would the Kings Twitter do? Well, obviously jump on the Lumbus bandwagon, but other than that. Plus, remember how I said, Bruins, Red Wings, it's traditional playoff hockey, no penalties in the third period. 14 penalties in the third period of this one, including 2 fights. And Larry David was at the game. We all thought this series was about to end. Turns out, might just be heating up. Now, where did I get this snazzy Bolt shirt? Buddy of mine, Adam Wilde, one of the co-hosts of the Panago Pizza Steve Dangle podcast, that's my podcast, went to a Habs Lightning playoff game where the Lightning obviously lost, but he brought home the shirt. We talk all about it on the new podcast. You can download that on iTunes, SoundCloud, and we talk about everything playoffs. So don't forget to check that out. Click like if you like this video. Click subscribe if you really liked it. Tell all your friends about this. Just tell them. Tell them. I will fight you. This isn't a good strategy. I'm sorry. And I will see you next time.